Hi everyone, I'm Frankie, and in case you don't know, I have a couple of businesses here in Stockholm City in Sweden, and on this video I'm going to show you how to set up your freelance business in case any of you are wondering how to do so. I've received a couple of comments, so thank you so much for all of those who kept encouraging me to keep going, so this video is for you. All right, so to get us started, so you go on Google. And in order to register your freelance business, essentially you're going to need a person number. It's a social security number that helps you essentially get everything in order for your life here. You search verksamt. This one is in English, so you can always, if you speak Swedish, you can also do this in Swedish, but for the sake of this video, since I'm an English speaker, I'm going to be doing it in English. And then they ask you, what would you like to do? So they have register a company, find permits, find advice and financing. So let's say you're ready to start your business here in Sweden. You have to choose a business type here. And in the previous video, I explained how I set up my limited liability company in the past and also how you can do so. So if you're interested in a specific type of business, please go and check that video out. But in this video, I'm going to be showing you the employed and self-employed. So sole trader, this is essentially who you're going to be. So this means that you're self-employed, you're working as a freelancer, a consultant, some type of business like that. So essentially you are the company. And this will be closely tied to your social security number because it's likely that your freelance income is going to be the same as your personal income. You can also set up a sole tradership and become self-employed or have a freelance account, even if you have a full-time job. So even if you have other income sources, it works the same way. You still have to fill out the same form. The only thing is when you do file your taxes, you're going to be declaring both from your freelance business and declaring also the taxes you pay through your employer income. To set up a sole trader, you need to register your business name, check business licensing requirements. You can have several types of business activities. Spouses can also run a sole trader together. So first, you register your business. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that. There's a bunch of other information on this page, but for now, just focus on registering your business. So let's go there. You click on register as a sole trader. Log in to access the link, and you can log in several different ways. But like I said, you need a personal number because otherwise you wouldn't be able to have bank ID. And bank ID only comes when you have your social security number and a bank account in Sweden registered with that social security number. So now I'm going to be signing in with my own bank ID. So of course, this is going to be like a fake business because I'm not going to actually register yet again another business. I already have a freelance account. All right. And as you can tell, you can always get the Google Chrome extension to be able to translate automatically. So yeah, just be mindful of that. So I can pick up, you can always leave it on draft, but in this case, I'm going to go and do a full run through of how to fill out these forms in the quickest amount of time. Register companies and associations, and then you have to select a company form. And the one you're going to select is the sole proprietorship. So this is, as I said, registering as a sole trader. Then you go and you register as a sole trader. You're going to have to apply to a certain number of things, but let's just start there. Yes, the service is only available in Swedish, so you can go back to the Swedish version and just use the Google Chrome extension to translate. Yeah, you can save a draft. Perfect. So again, you're in the private business and you're trying to register things that are happening right here. So, for example, from my end, I have the SNI code 93.290, which includes other leisure and entertainment activities. This is when I was doing some cultural events and helping plan those events. So I put it under this SNI code. This is the SNI code is the industry code. So essentially breaks down different industries into codes that then the tax agency can confirm that you're operating and doing activities under those industries. If you're ever wondering how to find the code for your particular industry, I recommend you try and do it so that it's clear for you and also for the form what industry you're going to be using. I'm going to just pretend to change what my sole tradership is about. So you can always find your SNI code directly in this portal for the statistics. So let's say you want to become a freelance graphic designer. Then you copy that. and you come back to the Swedish version again, and you then search Sök. So what are you going to pick? So this really depends on the type of graphic design you would like to do. If you want to keep it like open, wide open, then I generally suggest that you go for a code that represents a lot of different things. So let's see how can you tell? You click on one of these SNI codes, and usually they break it down into what are those activities. So if it's a graphic design business and you click on that, it will tell you what type of activities are included in this kind of business, in this kind of freelance business. So let's just say for the sake of this that I wanted to start doing activities under the SNI code 74.102. Then I would go back and I would include here, add industry, because you can break it down into different industries. Like sometimes you're doing activities that relate to one industry but not the other, but you can include all of them under your current setup as a freelancer. And then the rest of it, I'm going to say, oh, now I'm doing mostly the events, so 40, so 50, and then the rest is graphic design, so 50%. And you can always keep adding industries as long as the rest, everything that's the share of total sales, it all adds up to 100% turnover. So then you save, and then you click next. And then they're asking you, what are the estimated sales of your freelance job, your freelance gig for the next 12 months? Do not include VAT. Obviously, you might not know what you're going to make, especially if you're just starting out, if you don't have any clients, if you haven't invoiced anyone yet. So what do you put here? You put an estimate. And usually I would say something that would be feasible is if you've been paid in the past, however much money you received for a project, maybe put 1 or 2 projects worth of that amount. If you don't think or you don't know exactly how much you're going to make, I usually just put 0. And believe me, you can put 0. Nobody's going to judge you for that. Don't worry. And why is this important? Because they're going to use this annual turnover, this income per year, to calculate whether or not you need to be registered for VAT, value added tax. And if you do need to be registered, usually it's because your annual turnover will be above 80,000 SEK kronas. So you need to be careful with that. Like, do not, if you don't think you're going to make 80,000 SEK in a year, at least the first year, do not register for VAT, because that way there's some money there that you can keep in your pocket. If you do register for VAT, then you have to pay that money back next time you file your taxes around, even if it is a big chunk of your annual turnover. In this case, I'm not going to put 0 crowns because typically you can put 0 crowns when you're registering, but I actually do have a freelance business. So let's just say I make approximately 10,000 crowns or 1,000 euros USD across the board. And then I go Nesta, the next one. Next step is if you become an employer. So technically as a freelancer, you're not supposed to have employees unless you start to gain more clients, more assignments, right? Like just budgeting wise. But if you'd like to register as an employer, you will have to have some formalities like pay social fees, figure out the taxes, insurance, things like this. So if you're not going to register as an employer, let's say you don't plan on growing your freelance business to the extent that you would have to hire someone else besides yourself, then I would just not register as an employer and just click next. And then we have the F or FA tax. The F tax is the Fortnox tax, which means the business tax. So every business in most countries in the world has to pay tax for existing. And just like that, so do you as a freelancer. If you're going to become a sole trader, this means that you are in fact a business. You have a business. It might not be a limited liability company because there's other rules and legalities around that, but it will be something that still is liable to tax, business tax. So there's F tax or the FA tax. If you have both income from your business and from, for example, employment, you apply for approval for the FA tax. This means you have regular income. And in fact, you'll have to also be approved for a special tax so you don't get taxed too much. And the FA tax is different from the F tax in the sense that they know you are employed elsewhere. So the tax there is going to be deducted. They're going to deduct a little bit less tax from your freelance businesses or freelance activities. And the F tax, on the other hand, when you don't have any other employment, that is going to be the tax directly related to your activities as a freelancer. And then you are approved for F tax. Yes. I am not going to change this to the F tax because then that way I don't have to go with the FA tax anymore. I don't have income from an employer. Next. As you may be able to tell, I had registered already for the VAT, and this is because I was conducting VAT liable business. Whenever you're working with other partners or suppliers or potentially customers, clients in the European Union, so outside of Sweden, you will most likely have to charge them VAT. So then it stays within the European Union that this tax will be, transferable. So say that with the VAT, you make some purchases for equipment, maybe a camera, software for your business. And then on those purchases, you always pay VAT. In Sweden, it's 25%. But then you also sell some services to other people that may be below the 80,000 income, line, but at the same time, those people require you to put the VAT on their form. So let's say you're selling services, graphic design services to someone in Germany. You're going to have to invoice them with the VAT. All right. And because of this, at the end of the day, if your purchases for the business, if the VAT of your purchases outweighs or is bigger than the VAT you charge, then it's going to cancel out. And you actually will receive some of that money back from the tax agency after you file your taxes. But if, on the other hand, the VAT that you charge from fellow clients is higher than your purchases VAT, then you're going to have to pay some VAT back to the system. So you have to keep that money on the side in your account. That is not money you can use. That is money that should just be in the system. And it will be rotating and moving around within the EU, depending on how much or how little you spend versus you charge. So VAT is for goods and services that are tax liable, value added tax. And depending on the country, it will be more or less than 25%. Next up, we have the accounting period. So depending on whether or not you want to for example, register your business so that it has a financial year end in December. Most people do that. Most freelancers that I know, just to be in alignment with every other, corporation. It's easier to just have your financial year end on December 31st of the year. And then that means that when you file your taxes in April, when most people file their taxes, then there you have to just do the full year. Prior year. So let's say, and then the accounting method, that's for me, I always recommend this. The billing method is the best. The billing method means you're invoicing people. So you send them an invoice saying, this is what you have to pay. These are the terms. You have to pay me in 30 days. Da, 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 da. The accounting method, you probably will have to get an accountant or a bookkeeper. And that's a little bit more complex when you're just starting out. So I usually recommend you use the billing method. If you're unsure what these terms mean, okay, you can always go back to here and find out what they mean with the help button. So maybe they have here some information. Yeah. Where do you sell your goods and services? Let's say you're only going to sell your goods and services to customers or clients within Sweden. So then you click on that, and then you have to calculate your tax base. So if you have no VAT-free sales, enter 0 krona. So this means that if you happen to have an annual turnover over 80,000 SEK, then you're not going to have any VAT-free sales. But if it's below that, you have to include that here. So let's say that I have a sale or VAT sales of, for everything that I sell of the turnover that I put to the 10,000, all of them are going to be VAT-free sales. Let's say no one is going to ask me to charge VAT. Then I'm going to make sure that I'm going to calculate my tax base, and this means that I have to pay 0 kronas in tax. That's good. So your tax base is less than 80,000 SEK. This means that you're VAT exempt. You can apply to be deregistered here. So because I was registered last year, because I made a little bit, I made business with VAT liable companies outside of Sweden. I had to be registered for VAT, and then I had to pay extra for that VAT. But because here you can apply to be deregistered, I can deregister myself from VAT if I so choose, and I know that I'm going to make less than 80,000 SEK per year. And then you have the accounting period. This is how often you must declare your VAT. If you're a small business owner, if you're just starting out as a freelancer, you're probably not going to have that much load. So I would actually recommend you do so each quarter or once a year. And once a year is the most common one. You can always declare your VAT, usually in close connection with my income tax return in May. So that's usually to delay it a little bit. And the accounting method versus the billing method. So this is where the information is here. What are the differences between the two methods? As a business owner, you must record all types of business events. You can choose between two different accounting methods. According to the closing method, or the accounting method, sometimes called the cash method, you post each invoice in connection with the payment. This applies to both the invoices you send to customers and those you receive from suppliers. You therefore post each invoice once. The invoicing method means that you post each invoice twice, first when you send or receive the invoice, and then when it is paid. I like to say that typically the registration of these things in the bookkeeping accounts, it's easier if you go through a bookkeeping app like Bookio, or there's a bunch, Cool Company, there's a bunch of them. But if you get confused about this, it's difficult sometimes to manage the closing method because it's difficult to have to track different parts of the incoming and outgoing payments and then having to match them to each other. So I would say maybe the invoicing method might be better for you. So just keep that in mind. So once you sign in with your bank ID on verksamt.se, you'll be able to register your sole trader or sole proprietorship or private business. There's a bunch of different names for it as a freelancer. So you'll be able to do so. As a private individual, you can start a company yourself as a sole proprietorship. However, it's important to note that you don't actually need any startup capital. This is one of the biggest differences between starting a freelance business and starting something like a limited liability company, as I described in my last video. As a sole trader, you don't need any capital. You can be fully responsible for keeping agreements and paying debts. So that's the thing with a limited liability company. If you have a lot of debts, sometimes when you declare bankruptcy, you don't have to pay off those debts because of that said limited liability. At the same time, however, the company's finances, you as a private business, must be separate from your private finances. So technically, you should still have your own business account. You should still have at least one account that's a little bit separate. And there's some business activities that will qualify and be a little bit different depending on whether you do it as an income earner, as an employee for someone else, like a part-timer or a full-timer, and whether you do it as revenue coming from your freelance business. So it's important to note those differences. You'll be able to register here. So I'm just giving you this little information. I always say that if you're going for speed, it usually takes about 30 minutes to fill out this form. And I'm going to try to make it in that time as well. So here we go. Step by step, what's happening. We're going to register our sole trader business. I already have one. So if there's any glitches happening at some point, it's because I had to kind of delete some parts of it and try to start over so you could actually see what's happening. And just to bear in mind, there's a fee of 1,200 SEK just to register it, because again, there's administrative costs. It costs money to put your account in the systems, in the database. So just be mindful that that's the only cost associated with filling out this particular form. First, you're going to put your first and last name. I'm just going to say Jane Doe, let's say, and your email is janedoe@gmail.com, janedoe@gmail.com, and telephone number. Hopefully by now you already have a Swedish telephone number. That's probably the most ideal. So let's say you're going to put 6090000. Okay, that's just a fake number. Perfect. Let's continue now. Okay, now we're going to need your company address. What does this actually mean? You're probably going to put your private address because in the beginning, it's difficult to have to pay or rent a PO box or have your own office space, unless you're working from a co-working space. In that case, you can definitely put the co-worker space address there. But typically, this is going to be a place where you need to receive mail from. So make sure that it's accessible to you. You're not going to make up an address for no reason. And the email again. If there's an email here that's from your co-working space, you can always put that there. So county, we're going to pick Stockholm County. That's where I'm at right now. And Stockholms kommun. There you go. So that's county. It's like the region. And the kommun is the municipality. Save and continue. No thanks. Company name. So now I need to pick a company name. You can probably use your personal name, like if you don't have a common name. I mean, I'm trying to use Jane Doe here as an example, but for example, if your name is Frida Rottweiler, let's say. These names are so bad. Frida Rottweiler. All right, let's just see graphic design. Let's say that I want to be a graphic designer. Graphic Design Solutions. Damn, that's a long name. So save and continue. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So that worked. So sometimes the company name is already taken. Let's say you have a very common name like the Jane Doe, or I'm thinking Eric Erickson. That's probably going to be taken. So you can always go and check all of these alternatives and see what to call your business based on what's already available, like what's already there. So then you avoid having a very similar name that when people type onto Google, you know, you don't want to have all the other Jane Does showing up and you're like the last on the third, fourth, fifth page of Google search. So it's important that you go through these like processes and you choose like, oh yeah, so what industry am I in? Yeah, well, it can be industrial parts. Sure. Next step. And then company name, made up words, personal name. Yeah, maybe it's going to be Ola's business. Maybe it's going to be Jane's graphic design solutions. I don't know. But in this case, we're calling it Jane Doe, not Frida Rottweiler. Jane Doe's graphic design solutions. So that's pretty much what I'm calling this. And it should be pretty self-explanatory. Do not use PewDiePie 300 because that's not going to work. So save and continue. Now that you have a company name, this is what's going to be on the database for all the businesses where you're going to be registered thanks to the tax agency. And then you have to give a business description. And bear in mind, if you're using the Google Translate Chrome extension, please make sure that you do type this in Swedish. So if you don't know how to write or spell in Swedish, please go to Google Translate. And it can be something along the lines of, I offer graphic design services to clients who wish me to design their brand identity, business cards, logo, and website graphics, or websites, or brand icons. But it needs to be descriptive enough. This is important because I've gotten, the first time I registered my sole trader business, I had to answer a bunch of other calls at the end afterwards when the case agent was going through it because they couldn't, my description was not descriptive enough. Well, the first time it was because it was in English. So then I had to fix it and change it to Swedish. But the second time was because it wasn't descriptive enough. So I needed to include the activities that I was going to do. So make sure you do that. And you even have some examples here, you know, you can include the examples as well. Follow the instructions that they have here. So then I'm going to go and switch back to Swedish, and then there's the work description, and I will include it and save it. So spara och fortsätt, then you go move forward. Now we have name protection in several counties. This is optional. So let's say there's another Jane Doe's graphic design business in Skåne, in the south of Sweden. Then maybe I want to protect my name in several counties. However, you should know this will cost you extra money. I'm pretty sure. Like if I wanted to add extra, let's go to Skåne. Or Uppsala. Let's go to Uppsala. No, Skåne. Skåne's right here. Oh, let's go to both. I want to do business in all of them. And then I have to add a special name here. And you see automatically how my feed changed. So it's not ideal. So unless you really want to do business everywhere with the same name, and you think, oh, yeah, I need to be registered in all these different counties because I'm going to be working with municipalities everywhere that need my graphic design solutions, well, then it's worthwhile because then no one else can take your business name in the future in that county. So save and continue. You'll see my fees back to normal. Perfect. Continue. I will ignore this. This is optional. Company name in foreign language. This is if you're going to do transactions with international partners and business suppliers or potential competitive environments for you. And if there's, for example, if you want to break into the American market and you want to call yourself Jane Doe's Graphic Design Solutions, obviously there's going to be more people called Jane Doe in America. So what do you do instead? You want to register with a company name in a foreign language. You can do that so that, I mean, the States is a bad example because I'm registering with an English name. But let's say I want to do business in Tokyo. Then I would register in Japanese, my name in Japanese, Jane Doe's company. What was it that I called it? Why did I call it such a difficult name? Anyway, I would register it in Chinese, in Japanese. Oh my God. And that's what you do here. But this will also add costs to your application. So unless you absolutely want to differentiate yourself in a new market right away, then there's no point in doing so. Okay, you continue. This is optional. Then we have the entrepreneur. What applies to the trader? Are you under 18? So I can check here. You are a trader or proprietor or an entrepreneur that is undergoing the self-employed form if you're personally responsible for the company's contracts and debts. Meaning if you sign on stuff and that's your name, then you know the liability is also yours. The legalities of it is also yours. You must not be younger than 16 years old. So here in Sweden, anytime you want to start a business above 16 years old, you start to have some legal liability. But if you're younger than 16, you need some type of warrantor or a guardian, a parent to vouch for you that they would be legally liable if something were to happen where you cannot pay your debts. And you also must not have any trustees. So this trustees thing, it's essentially the guardians and stuff like this. You must not be bankrupt. And then it says may not have dietary restrictions, which to me just doesn't make sense. That requirement is like, what is that supposed to be about? I think this particular part is just about health and safety and again, life insurance. So like almost like life insurance, okay? And then if you are not registered in Sweden, so if you do not have a Swedish social security number, you must report a coordination number. This is like a temporary social security number that I know, for example, when you're a refugee or when you're in the process of acquiring your full permanent residence status, or if you're just a one-year master's student, you get a coordination number. And technically during that time, you still are able to be a freelancer here in Sweden. But it is very limiting. The coordination number, it doesn't work for every case. So just be mindful of that. It's much easier to do all this process with the personal number. Also, I wouldn't even know how to do this without logging in with my mobile bank ID. And for that, I need a personal number. So maybe there's a way to do that with a coordination number when you actually can get a bank account and a mobile bank ID, but drop in the comments if you know the answer to that question. I'm not really sure if it works the same with coordination numbers. How would you be able to register here? If you have turned 16 but not 18, you may be a sole trader if your guardians give their permission. So the guardians still need to be involved in some way. But yeah, I'm the proprietor, essentially. I can add myself as a trader. And the way I do that is with my personal number. So now I'm going to fake this a little bit so you don't actually see all of my personal number. But just so you know, I'm going to put my social security number here, and then we will skip ahead in this part, just so we can keep going in the form. Okay. Okay. In case that you need to, for some reason, leave the country or go do business abroad, and you need someone else to be left with your decision-making power, you can assign a power of attorney to someone that you trust. And in order to do that, you can also include those people here as a proxy. Now I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to continue. The auditors are not an entire requirement, but you can have some idea of when you do need an auditor or an accountant specifically to come in. And it's usually when you have big businesses, like you have more than 50 employees on average during a year, or the last 2 financial years, when you have over 40 million SEK in total assets or 80 million SEK in net sales. So these are big businesses. And up until that moment, you're not making enough money to justify an auditing process because that is very expensive. Like if you get EY as a consultant to come and audit for you, it's too expensive. So I would say a sole trader, as it's saying here, as it's recommending, being recommended. A sole trader usually does not need an accountant, at least not in the first 1 to 2 years, if you really, unless you're making millions and millions of kronas, which, kudos to you. I hope so. I hope you get there, but I think in the very beginning, that won't be the case. And then the deputy auditor, this is just someone that would replace the original auditor. So because we didn't state one, we just continue. Other information, okay, so maybe there's something else that you want to put forward. Otherwise, continue, save and continue. And that's it. And we get to the end, and you're pretty much almost signed. This is way too easy, right? Like, it shouldn't be this easy. So you have to like review the information and approve it. But essentially, you would finish this process by clicking here. You proceed, you submit and pay, and then the paying fee is the 1,200 up here. And then once you're done with that, you have to wait on average 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes they tell you how long that would take. Let's see here. Okay, so July 8th was the last update. It can always change, but you can come back to this link. I will put it in the description box. But usually to set up a business, they have some information here. So you, in this case, are registering a new enterprise. So that is currently 19 days. So if you registered recently, just know that you're waiting about 2 to 3 weeks. And then, for example, if you've already registered and you want to check now, like, oh, are they actually processing my application? Can I confirm that? You can come on this website and check. Our goal this week is to start processing applications that arrived. This is where you can come and check. There's also a change, response times and delays for updating company details, closing your business, things like this. And if you registered solely for the number so that you can become a sole trader, you will be getting that number. Most likely it's going to be your own social security number. And once you use that social security number for everything, be it your business expenses, be it your own private affairs, your own personal income from another job that you have, everything will be connected to that same social security number, the person number. I hope this has been helpful, and make sure to check out the rest of our videos if you're interested in knowing more about how to set things up here in Sweden. Otherwise, thank you for watching.